Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. The first weekend of Major 3 qualifiers is over, and wow, what an entertaining set of matches. Certainly some surprising results today, plenty to dive into, and really some incredible implications here for what the rest of Major 3 might look like, but also the point standings, of course, as we head towards the World Championship. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Of course, Envoy was playing later on today. We'll see the Thieves series here in a second. His younger brother, Dalton Hannon, now turned 18, is trying to make something happen seemingly in the Challenger side. He says, so excited to compete, hopefully make it like my brother did. As of now, I'm looking to compete in LANs, Challenger, stuff like this. So, not really sure what this guy's history is, whether he's played an awful lot to Chels and search and destroy stuff online, but of course, to some degree, probably, like genetics and kind of gaming ability runs in the family, probably. It's like, look, we'll see if this works. Of course, there was always the talk back in the day about how, like, okay, Karma, when he had Bella, right, like, she's going to become the next, esports superstar, so we'll see if it works out like that. And of course, younger brother, older brother thing has been a thing, and of course, brothers it's pretty honestly common to have like twin brothers in esports do pretty good things. We've seen that in Call of Duty, of course, and other games as well. So we'll see if that works out in reality. We've got to dive into these series then. Of course, we'll discuss the New York series towards the end of the video. We've got to start off with Paris Legion versus Seattle Surge. This might be the craziest scoreboard that I've ever seen. I don't know how to dissect this. This is a Bakar char points. Like Seattle generally pretty good at this map, but Paris honestly could have won this one. They had a pretty big lead actually towards the end of this game, but well, they fell away as they did exactly in the game 4. We'll see that here in a second. But look at this. Accuracy is 15 in 28 with just over 2,500 damage. Pred is 41 in 26 and Sim is 37 in 30. Honestly, Sim and Pred, this map is their playground, there's no doubt. Like, Pred drops 41 in 26 for the win. Okay, fair play. We look at the other side of the scoreboard. Jimbo has a 0.58. It doesn't get much better for the rest of the series. 22 in 38. And then Temp is 41 in 23 with 5k damage with a 1.8 KD, and they can't win the series. Like, he must be incredibly frustrated right now, and understandably so. Like, someone's got to save this guy, Donny Temp. I don't know if he can perform quite this well on other teams. People would argue, okay, like Temp's kind of playing in such a way that he makes himself look much better than the rest of the team, but still, I think he is much better than the rest of the team, to be perfectly honest, and it probably deserves better than this. Whether another team needs his services right now is another question, because if they wanted to get him off Paris, they probably wouldn't have to ask too much, right? Or wouldn't have to offer too much to make that happen, knowing the kind of way they run things, but I suppose we'll see what they decide to do, or whether any team actually wants him, right? But we'll discuss Temp more here in just a second, because we've got to finish off the series first. I wanted to mention a few things here from MoneyL Stats, because made these kind of beautiful graphs of all the maps that went down. We'll dive straight into this game too. It was a 6-3 to Paris. They bounced back in this map. Temp broke a CDL record in this game, which was rather impressive for the amount of snipes, I believe, in one single map. As Round 11 Stats point out, just tied the Search and Destroy record actually for the most snipes in a single map with 7. The other two inside of Vivid got theirs on Desert Siege. To do it on Tuscan, I thought was pretty impressive here. 6-3 to Paris. They tie up the series, and it's really where Seattle, like, previously at the Prime Classic, for example, they were awful at the respawns, and then they would actually kind of do all right in the Search and Destroy. This series, they turned it on its head, and they won the respawns, but they lost the search. So tough to really predict how any of these teams are going to perform against each other, to be honest. We go into this game 3. This is where Seattle seemingly on this offense on Berlin control seem very good. Pred, especially in this situation, is really hard to stop. He seems really good on the offensive side, especially of Berlin control, and they win 2 offenses here, which is pretty impressive to be able to do that. So maybe a kind of a new home map for Surge. Maybe some teams are going to have to start thinking, okay, let's get rid of this from their map pool when we play them in the future. But they take a 2-1 advantage. But Paris, I thought, had a good chance here on Tuscan Hardpoint, given what they've done over the last few days on this particular map, to actually, well, make a comeback in this series, take it to a game 5. Who knows what happens there? But somehow they managed to throw this away. This is beautiful, honestly, that MoneyL Stats point out, just so you can see that they led the entire game up until the very final seconds. So, like, whether that's a mental thing or it's an absolute bottle job from these boys. But honestly, going into this map, it was possible, I believe, if Jimbo had an absolute stinker, that he could potentially break the all-time worst ever KD for a single player in a series, which I believe he got pretty close, but we'll see that here in a second. But anyway, Seattle win it. Like, look, Temp's going to be looking at this scoreboard thinking, what is going on? Pred performed great, honestly, for Seattle this series. 41 in 26, 22 in 14 on the map 3, 23 in 22 on the map 4, 1.3 KD pretty much for the entirety of the series. But look at this, right? So Sip's got a 1.27, Pred's got a 1.2. Now, that is effectively the win condition here for Seattle Surge. Accuracy goes about even, Mack does his thing. But man, these Paris Legion stats are painful to look at. Gravity's about even, John's kind of doing what he tends to do, 0.85, 0.9, something along those lines. Temp is 98 kills, 1.46 KD, 12,000 damage almost, most in the lobby. And then Jimbo sitting here with 51 in 99. Like, I believe, I'm not sure what the worst KD is over a kind of a 4-map series, because I think some of the other worst KDs have generally been against FaZe, Envoy, Formal. I think Dylan Cod as well in Black Ops Cold War had a pretty tough time against FaZe, dropped like 0.4s, something like that over the course of 3 maps. But over 4 maps, I don't know what the worst is. Like, Jimbo was getting close, actually, because I'm pretty sure Jimbo's his like first ever series, he went 50 something in 100 and something. I think that was a similar KD. So like, look, I'm not really sure if this is the worst ever kind of KD performance over 4 maps. It might not be, but it's not pretty much. And Jimbo has improved as of late, and sometimes you just have shocker series, but it probably just happens too often at this point. And there is no doubt that Temp was looking at the production from his teammates here and being like, look, come on guys, are we serious about this? That this is what I've got to do and I'm still losing series? Because he was trying his best. There's no doubt just watching it, right? And as Crone says, free Temp. I think that's probably the way to look at this series. But Sim and Pred certainly turned up on the Seattle front. But yeah, even as Temp goes, lol, GG Seattle, lost 3-1. So he's probably looking at the scoreboard and be like, okay, what is happening? Get me out of here, like, please. Of course, he's got to deal with the situation he's got, but I'm sure it's a tough time for him mentally because he's probably on that minimum salary. He's doing his best to get an opportunity elsewhere, but well, seemingly no one's going to take the chance here. But hopefully next year, if not the rest of this year, some organisation that actually wants to take the CDL series will give this guy a chance because he's been lights out this year. I think there's no doubt. I think you can improve a fair few teams in the league. Let's talk about this Los Angeles Thieves series then, because here we are with the CDL points going into the day effectively. Or I think this actually was just after that Seattle series because they got 10 more points on the board. But of course, Thieves, Rokkr, like Ultra Mutineers, Subliners, all in this kind of a ballpark of, well, some might make champs, some certainly might not. And this is a big test, of course, of Rokkr this series to see whether they have what it takes with this Havok lineup to actually make something happen. They looked pretty bad at the Prime Classic, but they come out here game 1 against Thieves and they win the game 1. This is where I was very impressed initially, just because, like, we know that Minnesota's game 1 hardpoints have been their key struggle. If they'd have won, like, half their game 1s for most of the season, they'd have probably got, like, 120 points or something. Like, if they won on more of their game 1s, they would have been a much better team than they were for the first half of the season. And suddenly, they're winning game 1s against Thieves. Like, of course, this is Gavutu hardpoint. I'm pretty sure they played this one on, which a very good map for Thieves, at least at the start of the year. And this game 1 victory certainly will scary for Los Angeles Thieves, because if there's one team in the game you don't want to go down 1-0 to with their search and destroy prowess, it's probably the Minnesota Rokkr, right? Going down 1-0 versus Minnesota is a scary sight indeed, because, like, you never know what's going to happen in the game 2. They win this one relatively comfortably, and game 2, like, I mean, Attach, honestly, he was the takeover man this series. Like, I picked him in my Breaking Point Fantasy for a reason. This guy's been lights out recently. He's playing in a role that seems to fit him so well. Like, he's always been good with a sniper. I mean, look at this. He's got the pixel peek, gets one. The second shot as well was really nice also to clutch up this round. But, well, it doesn't get them over the line already. Like, I mean, Envoy gets a massive ace actually right here to put them up 2-1 in this map. And at this point, I thought, okay, fair play. Maybe Los Angeles Thieves are going to make something happen here in this search and destroy and take something over the Minnesota Rokkr, where probably Rokkr expected to win this map given their pedigree in search and destroy and the like. And of course, that's exactly what they do over the next few rounds. They all of a sudden, I look back at the scoreboard and it's 5-2 in their favor. They close out the map as well, go a 2-0 advantage. And at this point, you're thinking, okay, well, what's going to happen here? Can Thieves possibly pull the reverse sweep? They've done it before. Both these teams have been involved in their fair share of kind of reverse sweeps so far this season, right? And it is the game when it comes all the way down to a 1 versus 1, Drazah versus Standy. And Drazah makes a great play here to secure the point in the end, as Standy has to get in as barely any time on the clock, really, and gets the job done. So, very interesting round. Honestly, Berlin does come down to these really interesting kind of plays over towards the B site, right? Where, like, one team only really needs a few kills on the offense to put the other team in a dirty spawn trap. So, like, it's always kind of on a knife's edge, right? That's what I like about this map compared to Gavutu, for example, is, like, even if you get 4 deads on the enemy team, they're still gonna, like, they're still, not going to be caught in a trap or anything. They can still probably get out of the spawn trap in their base and get you off the point. Whereas in this situation here on Berlin, like, if you get kind of a 4 dead situation on offense, you can really put them in a demon trap and probably win the round then and there. But it's not always that simple, as it was happening in many rounds that we saw today. But anyway, it goes 1-1. Minnesota clutch up on their defense. I think I said Drazah was on offense, but you guys get the picture. And I mean, yeah, it was Attach really came to play here. Attach had so many kills in this map. It's very rare you see a kill performance quite like this from a player. I mean, look at this 3-piece. Just absolutely out of control. It survives this gunfight as well versus Octane and absolutely beams them as well. And that was the key difference maker. It goes to a round 5. And in this incredible situation, it was a 4 versus 5 at one point in favor of the Los Angeles Thieves. Then it becomes a 3 versus 3, 2 versus 3. And in the end, it's a 1 versus 3. And it's Kenny, you're left alone. And he goes down as well. And Minnesota Rokkr clutched it up. A 3-0 sweep for the Minnesota guys. Like, I mean, yeah, great performance from them. There's no taking away from it. We've got to talk about Los Angeles Thieves, right? That's kind of the key point here, because, like, Minnesota, we don't really know how good they can be, what their ceiling is. But yeah, this loss for the Thieves is certainly a dagger to them, because it just goes to show they are far from safe going to the World Championship. Like, Rokkr even tweet this out, throwing the L at Kenny, as we kind of saw this game out the other day. And it's Kenny especially, really, that was in the firing line following this series, as we see, like, these are the stats just from it real quick. A 46 kill at control, by the way. I'm not sure if that's a record or Clayster got close last year. At least in control, that's surely got to be the record for this season. But I mean, yeah, here's the overall series stats. Kenny has a 0.7. Like, we're looking at the stats elsewhere, Attached with a plus 24, like all this type of stuff, almost 10k damage. But yeah, Kenny, 6.5k damage. Like, honestly, many of these maps he wasn't even really using a sub. Like, I mean, he has a 0.7, 49 kills. Really tough showing from him again today. Definitely been some very inconsistent consistent series from him since he's moved to the sub, and honestly quite a lot of maps here. He wasn't even really using it, right? Octane says, super flat series out of us. GG's to Minnesota. We go again next week versus Seattle. That's kind of far from an easy game. You never, Seattle's never an easy match to play against. You don't really know what they're going to bring to the table. But this from Reckless here was kind of a common response to Kenny, being like, look, hang on a second here. What's Envoy doing on the map? Because he's barely got an SMG duel on some of these maps. Kenny's decided, okay, on some maps I still want to use the AR. And if he's not fully comfortable with being that full-time SMG player, then is this solution actually going to work for the team? Because getting 3-0'd by Minnesota is pretty much unacceptable, to be honest, if you want to be a team that's, going to challenge for championships, right, and be that kind of third best team that they're trying to be behind Optic and FaZe, or if not better, in the ideal world. But, let's just dive into this final series. You can give your thoughts in the comment section below. And an interesting matchup, one that subliners have done very well in so far this season. Pretty sure they beat Bridge at the Kickoff Classic, and again in the Major 1 qualifiers. They match up against here with very different teams, to be honest, with what they had before. Of course, subliners fresh off that victory at the Prime Classic should be favoured to come in and win this series. They did a rather good job at it. The respawn gameplay from this team lately looks pretty spectacular, to be honest, compared to where it especially was at the start of the year, right, when they couldn't win a hardpoint to save their lives. Game 1 was pretty back and forth, to be honest, here on the Tuscan. Boston are always going to give you a good fight, but I just do feel that as the season has progressed here, they just don't have the firepower to match up with the best teams in the game. Like we saw at the start of the season, they really did. All of the players were playing well, doing their thing, but when it comes up against playing some of the best teams, I do think New York are amongst that category of the best teams in the game. I think that's kind of indisputable, really, based on what we've seen in the past couple of weeks, for example. But when they play teams like this with a bit more firepower, a bit more cohesion, it just seems like they just lack a little bit. And of course, it's understandable, right? They built this team before the, kind of after all the roster mania changes had gone down. They did a good job from the scraps that they had, but I'm just not sure. Nero, for example, didn't have the greatest series. We'll see that here in a second. But anyway, subliners win the game 1, a close fought affair. But in the end, as in kind of the game 4, subliners eventually stretch out a bit of a lead. They managed to close out the game 250, 220-ish. The search and destroy goes certainly the other way, though. Got to shout out TJ in this game because he made some huge plays. It was actually a 4-1 disadvantage for subliners. They brought it back to 4-4, and then TJ had a huge round with the sniper to get 2 crucial kills, and a clutch of actually it was a 3 versus 2 in favour of the subliners, went down to a 2 versus 1 for CrimSix. He couldn't get the job done. TJ made a massive clutch there, and he was kind of the catalyst to getting them back into this series. But then we went to a Gavutu control, where Boston Breach have been terrible pretty much so far this season, right? They've been, awful at this game mode pretty much all across the board, and, of course, they've gone for it here. They decided to let it through the map, or maybe they don't like Berlin, or whatever the case might be, or maybe they think they've improved at this map, but doesn't really work out for them, right? This crucial first offense that the subliners win. Kismet did a great job kind of looking over Porlex here to make this one happen. They win their next defense. They close out the defense after that to win this game 3-1, so thankfully not another game 5 slugfest. We finally got an offensive victory, which is always good to see when it happens, certainly worth celebrating. But yeah, subliners once again looked better in this control. They go to a final hardpoint as well, but yeah, CrimSix with a 1.46 KD in their map 3, so he turned up when they certainly needed him, and as we said earlier, they need every single victory they can get right now for the World Championship points. And New closing out on a Berlin hardpoint, really entertaining one. Again, they had a pretty significant advantage, like 80-90 points at one point, where Berlin, honestly, you can never count a team out, because all it takes is one nice hardpoint and a good rotation to make something happen, and it really felt like subliners to kind of let the game, let their advantage slip away, going into the very final set of hills, where all of a sudden, it honestly looked like, it was Boston right back in the game, but then 1 second later, they get 10 seconds of scrap time, they've got great rotations, they close out the game 250, 209 or something, and they win all 3 respawns in this series to take this series 3-1 over the Boston Breach. Great performance from CrimSix and the boys, as he says right here, GG's Boston 1-3-1 on the board, grind doesn't stop. So yeah, 50 points they have now, certainly they will need to extend that rather significantly, but they do have a pretty hard time, pretty hard schedule. Pretty sure the next game is against Paris though, so if they can win that and maybe take the one after that, they put themselves in a pretty good position, especially if they can have a good major. But I'm sure this is going to be a key talking point for the weeks to come. But Method says he played pretty awful today, and certainly Boston right now in a bit of a slump, honestly, their last few games. They need to find their way out of it if they want to actually have a chance of winning a championship this year. Final series stats, just as we close out the video, look like this. Pretty much exactly what you want to see if you are a New York Subliners fan. Kismet's going dead even at 1.0 KT, Crim just about even as well, and then Hydra Paulette's kind of stealing the show on the other side. But yeah, not one of Method's greatest series, neither with Nero, but very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit a like button, tells the YouTube gods, this is a good video, I just like you should see it as well, and upgrade the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you guys as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.